pats from his father.
"So am I,"
Gregory replied, patting his father's back in return. Yukiko let out a hiccuping sob.
I was so worried that I'd made a grave mistake.
Gregory broke the hug with his father and took Yukiko gently into his arms.
"No, Yuki, you did something I hadn't even thought was possible. Thank you."
Kissing her cheek, he held her for a long moment.
"Carmichael, will you tell us about Gregory's mother?"
Eugene asked, guiding the big man to a seat.
"It's obvious that she had a big part of his heart, and we'd like to hear about her."
It's the least I could do for the people who paid my debt in full,
Carmichael said, sitting.
Would it be too much to ask about your daughter in return? I want to know more about the woman my son's going to marry tomorrow.
Gregory felt a bounce to his step as he walked toward the arena floor. He hadn't known how much he had wanted his father's support until today. A wellspring of happiness made him feel like he was flying.
"What about you, Mother? Would you smile on us now? We're going to make amends, and tomorrow I'll wed my heart. I'm sure you felt that way for Father, and he felt the same for you, as his heart seemed to vanish when you died."
Exiting the tunnel with Mindy trailing him, Gregory was smiling broadly when he met Jen's gaze. She'd stopped by their box during the day and met Carmichael. Gregory chuckled when he thought of her bumbled attempt to introduce herself. Jen was serious. She wanted to win, but as she crossed the arena and locked eyes with Gregory, a smile touched her lips too. His happiness that his father was there had made her heart swell for him. Grandmaster Yunlo gave both of them a pointed look.
"Are you here to fight, or are you here to make a mockery of the tournament?"
The words were harsh, but it did as he wanted and wiped the smiles from their faces. "I fight to win," Jen said firmly.
"I fight to win,"
Gregory added a second later.
"Clan member, friend, it only matters that we give everything we can."
Jen nodded.
"We'll see. You know the rules. Bow to the council."
They turned and bowed to the council's box before bowing to Yunlo and then finally each other. Jen took an aggressive stance as she stared at Gregory. Gregory fell into a defensive posture, meeting her challenging gaze. Both of them tensed as Yunlo raised his hand, ready for anything.
"Fight!"
Yunlo commanded, suddenly 30 feet from them. Gregory brought up foresight, quickly shutting it off as he deflected her first 3 strikes. She was balanced and meditating lightly when the fight began, negating his foresight. Gregory grimaced as he deflected her strikes with difficulty. The enhanced strength from her magic made her hit harder than anyone he'd faced during this tournament. Pushing off the last attack, Gregory leapt back and swept the Naginata in a hard horizontal strike to keep her back.
"You know how to negate me,"
he said. "It isn't as easy as I had thought it would be," Jen said, her voice slightly detached. Adjusting her footing, she got ready to come for him again. "I have the advantage in this fight."
"You do indeed,"
Gregory said. His ability to see Aether didn't work on her, since her Aether use was internal, so he knew he'd have to count on his skill with the Naginata to keep him in the fight. Jen knew she'd have to use her Aether sparingly to keep going as long as she could. A brief wish for her earring to be charged or her armbands to be of use flitted through the void of her meditation. It shook her concentration, but did not break it. The two clashed over and over, Gregory using every ounce of skill to keep Jen at bay. With her magic helping her, she was faster, stronger, and more agile than he was. She was pushing and felt as though she was close to winning when something she didn't expect happened. He stopped one of her follow-up kicks dead. Gregory grunted when his left arm blocked her high kick, but the force was negligible compared to everything else she had thrown at him.
Gloves, Gregory thought. Need to find a way to use them more, but with her holding that sword, it's nearly impossible.
Jen sprang back as her momentum had come to a stop. Meditation broken from the shock, she asked the only thing she could.
Who? Later, we have to fight until one of us wins,
Gregory said as he moved into an attack stance and charged her. Jen was forced onto her back foot as she dodged, barely managing to deflect his onslaught. Twice, he skimmed her arm, but both were negated by her magic.
I need to get back to balance,
she cried internally. Steeling herself, she prepared to fight dirty.
It's good that your father made it,
she said as she twisted past one of his strikes. Gregory grunted, much like he did when a blow landed. The flow of combat had shattered for him as surely as her meditation had earlier.
Seeing you talking with him was good,
Jen continued as she took a deep breath, trying to center her own mind.
Damn it!
Gregory hissed when he realized what she was doing. Rushing at her again, he failed to account for her shift in tactics. Jen smiled as he came at her, the world again back in balance. Just as he closed in, she threw her sword at his face, making him bring the naginata up to deflect it. When he did, she attacked not him, but his weapon. The sound of breaking wood was loud to them as the naginata split into multiple pieces. Gregory let go of the shards and was just able to get his arms down to defend against her flurry. Each blow hit lightly as the gloves sapped the aether from them, but she attacked with such ferocity he couldn't even begin to counter.
I will win! I must win!
Jen howled as she infused herself with aether and tackled him. Gregory had been determined to win the fight, but his determination was a candle before the hurricane. Even when his gloves stopped her fists, Jen's knees crashed into his sides and her head slammed into his. Gregory was lost. His head was aching and his mind reeling, right before a memory came to him. Jin dropping his practice blade to attack Gregory barehanded. He'd forgotten that important lesson in this critical moment, and now he paid for it.
Stop!
Yunlo shouted as he appeared behind Jen and plucked her from Gregory's unresisting form. Jen snarled and spun on Yunlo, but blinked when she found herself across the arena from them. Mindy and Clem were already rushing to Gregory, who was trying to sit up.
Greg,
Jen whispered, unsure if she should go to him or not. Yunlo was suddenly in front of Jen.
Are you done, novice?
I apologize, Grandmaster,
Jen said, bowing deeply to him.
Yes, I'll accept that, as it appears you were just lost in a moment. Bow to the council and your opponent, then leave the field.
Jen bowed to the council and to Gregory. Standing back upright, she met Yunlo's eyes.
Sir, might I check on my friend?
Yunlo looked back to see Gregory being helped to his feet.
Yes.
Jen walked toward Mindy and Gregory slowly, unsure if he'd forgive her for what she had done at the end. Gregory gave her a pained smile.
You won, Jen. Mindy says I need to go easy for the rest of tonight. My ribs are badly banged up. They fixed my nose and jaw, though, so I can eat normally.
You didn't hold back?
Mindy said a little reproachfully.
I couldn't,
Jen said softly.
Greg, I'm so sorry.
Gregory snorted and winced in pain.
No need to apologize, Jen. We both agreed to do everything we could to win. I failed, twice. I should have kept foresight up once you stopped blocking me. And I never should have forgotten an important lesson. That my weapon might be as much a target as I am. If anything, I should be thanking you for helping me relearn that. It might save my life later. You won our rematch, fair and square.
His easy acceptance of his loss made Jen's heart ache and feel light at the same time. I cheated. I used your family against you.
No, you used everything you could.
He eased his arm away from Mindy.
I'm fine.
Are you sure?
Mindy asked.
Yeah, Jen has me,
Gregory said as he draped his arm on Jen's shoulder.
Don't ya?
Yes, always,
Jen whispered as she helped him along.
Pushing each other to do better,
Gregory said, missing her meaning.
Let's go hear what Yuki has to say about it.
Mindy paused in the hall as the other two kept walking. She watched them curiously before she started to follow them, wearing a thoughtful expression on her face. Chapter 62. Gregory and Jen took a little longer to get out of the waiting area, as the apprentice group from the Han clan wanted to talk with them. When they finally left, Yukiko and the others were waiting for them, along with the 2 squads of guards.
Sorry, some apprentices wanted to talk for a minute,
Gregory said. Yukiko stepped forward and gave Jen a brief hug.
I'll honor our bet, Jen.
I'm not sure I earned it, Jen admitted.
My ribs say otherwise,
Gregory said.
You forgot a lesson,
Jin said gravely.
We'll work on that.
Yes, Sensei,
Gregory said, cupping his hand, but not bowing more than an inch.
Save the bow until you heal,
Jin said.
Oh, good. You're all together,
Dia said, coming toward them.
Elder Lightshield wants you all to attend the feast. If you're willing, that is.
Feast?
Adolphus asked.
The clan is holding a feast for the novices who fought so hard. The elder will be distributing gifts to them as well.
Carmichael looked a little out of place.
I don't have the best clothing for a feast.
Dia gave him a kind smile.
We understand, sir. You don't have to attend if you don't feel comfortable, but we do ask you to consider it.
you should come
Gregory told his father.
and meet those who are watching over me.
My son wants it, so I will,
Carmichael said.
Good. Did anyone want to back out?
Dia asked. When no one spoke up, she smiled.
Excellent. We'll go right after the awards are presented.
The groups went back up to the boxes to see the fight between the Han apprentices and the Swift Wind apprentices. The fight was heavily weighted toward the Swift Wind, just in numbers, but the Han clan held a distinct advantage in their teamwork. The crowd